For me, theater is about the gathering. It's gathering people together in a single room to tell and hear stories that bring about the possibility of creating a world that's changed for the better.
This is a time that it's time to do a reset and do things differently moving forward. I love the idea of folks from the arts being involved in political issues, etc.
We've got to, as a movement, be a stronger political force. But if you're if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? Even in a moment like this, there's great power in this room collectively, right? There's great power to demonstrate to elected officials that behind you are tens of thousands, if not millions of people who want and need you to survive.
Getting the voices heard is really what we can do right now, and telling a story that resonates.
We need to raise the temperature through public awareness. So contacting your elected officials, having public facing events, planting good, stories that advocate our position about the need for rent cancellation or some form thereof is all very important.
Look, one of your members is the reason the business interruption bill exists in the state legislature. It's Alec Duffy from the Jack Theater Company. And we talked on the phone and we crafted the initial piece of that legislation. I think that being proactive and pointed. So there are probably unique circumstances that you're all going through. And if you think that there are some unique solutions to those circumstances, that's the essence of good democracy.
The collective voice of your industry is very important. Reaching out to your elected officials under the rubric of the League of Independent Theaters is a really powerful statement.
Well, we need to look at the bigger issue, and the bigger issue is how we help people reopen and what's it look like. And part of it's got to be the cancel rent for small businesses, and how do we do that?
And the new normal is going to be that people have the opportunity to work not from home, but from anywhere. What is going to make the cities important? What are going to make people want to stay invested in a community? So if it's not the live experience, then what is it?
Without canceled rent.
Rent abatement.
Cancel rent.
Rent relief.
The cancel rent movement.
Cancel rent.
I'm canceling rent.
And it comes down to rent cancellation for us.
Without complete cancellation of rent and rent forgiveness for the duration of this crisis, so many small and independent theaters would simply fail and cease to exist. We cannot allow all of you to be removed from the cultural landscape of the city of New York. There is no city of New York without artists, and there is no theater community without small independent theaters.
And the Office of the Public Advocate is here to support you all the way. And of course, we are in full support of the Gianara Julie New bills for rent relief.
There's no way that we can pay our rents on 30% capacity. That's just mathematically impossible.
We were at Alia really, deep impact for this from this coronavirus, because 80% of our staff, including me, and artists got the virus, and actually we lost our great chairman of the board of directors, Francisco Fuertes.
N.I.V.A did a study with our members, and 90% wouldn't be able to survive. Even with whatever the not paying rent for more than 5 months at this point.
But the cancel rent movement isn't just about canceling rent, saying landlord has to eat it up. It's about just compensation. And the question we have to answer is what that looks like. And so it isn't dollar for dollar. Maybe it is the government eats 50%. They do in form of tax breaks or revenue directly to the landlord. Maybe the landlord eats 25%, and maybe the small business does come up with 25%.
In Toronto, it's like 25% owners taking a hit, 25% venues taking a hit, and then the city or the government is taking on the other 50% of the rent. I mean, we are all going to hurt a little bit after that. It's understandable. Rent forgiveness has to be partnered with mortgage forgiveness. We understand that they likely will have to go hand in hand in order for this to go anywhere.
To me, I think, as you were saying, the goal is to find a way that kind of holds us harmless from, you know, a crisis that we certainly didn't create. But I think in the long run, that's something that can also protect the landlords as well from, you know, people just don't have the money to be able to pay them.
We know even if we can open our venues, we will not be in a place to be earning serious money. We never, by the way, we're in a place to earn serious money. Let's be real here. But we will not be in a place to get ourselves back to normal for at least a year beyond this. And I think I'm being optimistic.
We've taken some steps this week in Albany. They're small steps. I think my colleagues would acknowledge they're steps in the right direction. They're steps dependent on financial support from Washington. And that, I think, wherein the fight lies is getting that federal support first. And if we don't get the federal support, then we need to take the course of action that Bobby and Harvey have suggested, which is we got to come up with our own revenue sources here in the state of New York. We cannot let our small theater venues die.
Senator HOYLMAN has more faith in Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump than I do. I don't think they're coming to the rescue. And so I think we need all of you to be a lot louder to the state legislature, to the governor, to the mayor, that it's a little bit of bunk to say, let's keep waiting on July 1st. Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump are magically going to do the right thing for the first time in 4 years. It's not going to happen.
And in a recent town hall with Senator Gianaris, who I know isn't on here today, he said something that really stuck with me, and I think is just kind of at the core of all of this, which is if the government has the power to shut down your business and close your doors, they also have the power to provide some sort of relief.
Because this moment is lasting longer than I think a lot of us hoped it would at the beginning, we're facing, you know, I think we have a couple of bills in that mention extending the evictions 6 months past, or maybe 6 months from the start of this pandemic.
I think that the unfortunate thing, if the state and the city don't proactively look to protect both residential and commercial tenants, what we will see is a race to the bottom and a tragedy of the commons. There will be tons of landlords who will go out to try to protect what they think you know, their piece of property is. And in doing so, I think that they will you know, decimate our commercial corridors, our families. And so we need to protect them from themselves. And, you know, we definitely, at a bare minimum, go and extend that moratorium out further. But then we do have to come up with a solution that works in the very complicated system of property taxes, mortgages, and rent. And I mean, look, and that's the reason why I harp on business interruption insurance.
There's also the business interruption coverage that was discussed by Assemblymember Carroll that would say that if you had insurance and that insurance covered business interruption, then you would be able to get paid out on the lost revenue for the time of this crisis if your insurer is currently telling you that it's not covered.
Eventually, is going to have to be a reckoning on all of these, and that includes insurance companies that are sitting on record reserves and have been taking people's money for years and years and years. And there's a standard clause when an insurance company is taken to court. What did that person who purchased that insurance reasonably assumed was covered? If this isn't business interruption, I don't know what is. The average person reasonably assumed this was covered. And we need to get those claims paid.
I will say that there's a lot of excitement about the business interruption as a source of being able to provide some capital. but not necessarily every organization or every company had access to business interruption insurance beforehand.
You know, I also think that we're talking about opening streets to restaurants and plazas, but that should be expanded. And I am working to make sure that's expanded to include taking the arts and theater, in particular, small, local, nonprofit, independent, community-based theater into the streets so that people can actually be sitting there and having a beer, but then also safely enjoying a performance. I think that's part of our re-envisioning how we do the work that we do and how you all are going to survive this moment, because going inside for a while is going to be challenging to a lot of people. And even when you do go inside, that's going to look a lot different. So getting us outside and making it easier to go outside is incredibly important.
I mean, we're going to have really big, bold things that we never would have otherwise done. And I think you've got to ask your assembly member, your state senator, and the governor to really be courageous.
And I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart, I know how terrifying this moment is and what an existentially threatening moment this is to your livelihoods and to artists in general. So
I've been sitting here listening to all of the conversation, and I remember the AIDS crisis up close and personal. And well, not personal, but up close, because I worked in PR and I worked on AZT. And shout out, by the way, to Larry Kramer for acting up. And what I remember, yes, if you've never been in his presence, you really missed a wonderful thing. But what I remember was the fear was that, at least one of my fears, was losing the cultural community.
This moment, you asked if there's something that we're excited about or looking forward to, and that's a really hard question to answer right now in life generally, but independent theaters are going to survive, and that we're going to do everything we can to allow them to survive. So that's something to be hopeful for.